John David and Abbie were always seen as being quite sensible and level-headed when it comes to the Duggar family. In twos, their love was based on silent devotion, faith, and trust. They decided to raise their two small children in a quiet and loving Arkansas home, rather than chasing fame like some of Jay's siblings did. They genuinely felt that blessings came at God's set time, and their love story had been marked by patience and understanding between them. However, once they had their second daughter, John David's feelings started to shift. Dad's love for his daughters was clear. He was also experiencing an unheard of need that was beginning to consume him. Having a boy was the goal. The Duggar name would be passed down to a young boy who would grow up to be quite similar to him and even call him Dad. He had to remind himself that pride had nothing to do with repairing airplanes or assisting with equipment. It had something to do with family history. Abbie could relate to her spouse. When Jim Bob talked on the value of producing strong, pious men, or when John David glanced over at his brothers as they played with their children, she saw that his face brightened. The Duggars have never strayed from their conservative values as a family. Abbie saw the implied importance of a son's coming into this house, even though she never spoke it out. In addition to emotions of joy, Abbie had a mixture of excitement and anxiety upon learning that she was carrying her third child. In a moment, she was embracing him. He answered with unrestrained enthusiasm. "This time, it will be a boy. I have no doubts about that." He muttered something, hardly giving her a hug. The baby became the center of attention in their home from that moment. The decorations on Abbie's home's walls were carefully chosen by John David. The sisters would sit by her, caress her belly, and refer to the unborn kid as baby brother before the baby's gender was revealed. Lots of giggles and sticky notes with baby names. He started painting the nursery blue because he thought it would be a nice color, not even because they were encouraging. Thank God, this time they will have a boy. He felt that Abbie made a concerted effort to remain calm and hopeful during the pregnancy. While caring for their daughters and managing the home, she experienced morning sickness, back discomfort, and insomnia while pregnant. But she frequently found herself wondering when she was alone. Had I been silly to expect so strongly? Or was there another purpose for God? She was aware from her life experiences that blessings don't always come to us the way we would like them to. Every time she tried to express her worries, John David would kindly reassure her. "Be faithful, my love. God is aware of our motivations. He's aware of what we need," Abbie said. In her heart, though, she questioned whether John's trust had evolved into expectation. Every time the topic of a boy was brought up, the gleam in his eyes would brighten. Even the sisters-in-law and cousins made jokes about it, as did all of the Duggar family members and friends. Perhaps everyone has been anticipating this little Duggar child. Abbie would giggle a little, but she could feel the tension rising inside. As the months passed, the excitement nearly overwhelmed us. John David's evenings after the baby's birth were devoted to organizing the house and rearranging the rooms. He claimed he wanted to do it in order to give his child the same embrace his father had given him. He even transformed an old wooden rocking rocker. As Abbie watched him labor, she was struck by his passion, but she couldn't help but wonder, what if it's not a boy? During prayer nights and supper conversations, the family gathered around the table and talked endlessly about the unborn child. Michelle Duggar consistently maintained that having children is a gift from God. It had been a long time since the Duggar family had welcomed a son into the world. But Jim Bob couldn't help but smile with pride. Long after the rest of the group had laughed it off, Abbie continued to ponder about that one sentence. A few minor changes began to show in her personality. She was now experiencing a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. In the middle of the night, when everyone else was asleep, she would sit alone in the nursery with her hands gently resting on her belly. Instead of a son or daughter, she silently hoped for peace. She wished that their thankfulness would endure in their hearts no matter what. However, John David was too preoccupied with his dreams to pay attention to her anxious murmurs. He spoke extensively about his plans to teach his son aircraft, mechanics, and Christianity. Even though he spoke from the heart, there was a sense of expectation in his comments. Abbie smiled and nodded, never wanting to take away his happiness. Her family's excitement increased with every day that went by till her due date. Already, the Duggar siblings were preparing for their next major social media disclosure. The house was a frenzy of pink and blue decorations, baby outfits, and smiling presents. The night before Abbie's due date, the soon-to-be parents sat in the nursery and let their kids choose little onesies for their future baby brother or sister. Under the reassuring glow of a nightlight, Abbie and Michelle, John David's mother, assisted Abbie in packing her hospital bag. John David held Abbie's hand and whispered Thanksgiving prayers. "Tomorrow is the day," he mentioned, grinning. "I have a feeling it's there. We have been given a son by God." Abbie gazed affectionately at him, her eyes tinged with a mixture of fear and faith. She was desperate to believe him. She could see it in his eyes that she wanted him to experience the ecstasy he had been dreaming about. However, she knew deep down that they should be content with what they already had rather than material belongings. Her thoughts was racing that night, making it difficult for her to fall asleep. She was reminded that life was a miracle by the soft kicks she felt inside. She softly whispered, "I love you already, my little one, regardless of who you are." The truth would come to light when the sun rose. This realization would have a major effect on their lives, bringing with it unexpected challenges to their hearts. A slight shower brushed against their Arkansas windows as the sun rose. When Abbie sensed her baby's impending arrival, she rose before the sun, as though the walls themselves could sense the event's approaching holiness. The air was thick with expectancy, and the home was unusually quiet. John David's face showed his eager enthusiasm and energy as he hurriedly assisted her in packing the remaining items. Whispering, "This is it," he planted a kiss on her forehead. "Finally, we will meet him." It seemed like a hospital trip would never end. Silent prayers and reflections on the months that had preceded this moment were heard at every mile. With tears running down his cheeks, John David occasionally gazed into Abbie's eyes while holding her hand close and murmuring words of love and faith. Despite her pain, Abbie tried to smile and cling to his warmth. Despite her racing heart, labor continued for hours, and she was adamant that nothing could take away from the happiness she was experiencing at the moment. Not expectations, not disappointment, and definitely not anything. The air was clean and bright, and the soft sounds of equipment and nurses filled the room. John David remained by Abbie's side, praying and saying encouraging things while she breathed hard and momentarily. Both of them started crying in relief when they heard the baby's first cry. Their child's birth marked the beginning of a new chapter in their life, and the months of waiting paid off. However, when the crucial moment arrived, everything changed. "Congratulations, it's a girl." The quiet in the room was broken by the nurse. John David gave a tender grin, but the happiness in his eyes froze. A portion of him hesitated as he attempted to smile. The exhilaration that had made his palms tremble seconds earlier had a new source. His heart felt oddly heavy when he looked at Abbie, who was holding their newborn daughter and had a smile of pure delight on her face. Abbie noticed right away. She expected to see a look of genuine joy on his face, but instead she saw bewilderment. As Abbie puts it, "She's perfect." As the nurse gently laid the baby on her chest, her voice trembled with the weight of her feelings and the importance of what she was about to go through. She was instantly, totally, and irrevocably enamored with her baby. But she could sense John David's quiet, which was like a chill wind in the room. John David said, "She's beautiful," but his tone lacked the fervor Abbie had hoped for. As the hours passed into the first night of calm in the hospital, Abbie stayed up, watching their daughter sleep soundly in her arms. He kissed her forehead tenderly, then the baby's little head, yet he appeared aloof, preoccupied with what might have been. John David's face was unreadable as he sat by the window and gazed out at the rain. It was not anger that filled him, but disappointment. The soft hum of various pieces of machinery and the soft sound of their newborn's breathing filled the chamber. But there was a gap between them that was invisible to the human eye. It wasn't Abbie, God, or the baby, but the brittle hope that had been slowly corroded over so long. He battled remorse in his heart. I believe he would be ecstatic. He could see it. Every child is a gift, he knew. Even when he didn't say anything, Abbie could know he was in pain because his mind kept replaying the picture of holding his baby. It was an impossible fantasy, as far as I could tell. John should not let the opportunity go away, she begged. As the nurse walked out of the room, her voice trailed off. More despair than rage drove it. The love in your eyes must be visible to her. She wished that he would see what she noted. Seeing their daughter's innocence, heartbeat, and tiny fingers was wonderful. John David nodded slowly and took a tentative step toward the bed. He sat down beside Abbie and gazed at his young daughter. A wave of warmth swept over him as she opened her eyes for the first time. For the first time since she was born, he smiled a little, sincerely. "She has your eyes," he added quietly, and despite her tears, Abbie smiled. She also muttered something in response. "In your nose." Some of the happiness was still hidden. but a little warmth had returned. The Duggar siblings called to offer their congrats. Social media quickly became overrun with posts on the new Duggar baby girl as greeting cards from the Duggar family swamped the platform. From the perspective of the observers, everything was flawless. Another gift and another happy arrival. However, beneath the surface, there was an unspoken hostility between Abbie and John. John David remained at the bedside that night even after Abbie fell asleep. He observed his daughter's gentle breasts as her tiny chest swelled and puffed, a love so strong that it engulfed him whole. But there was a tinge of regret. He said in a whisper to himself, "Lord, I ask for your pardon for feeling things I shouldn't. Help me see her the way you do." The rain had stopped falling outside, and a light wind was blowing through the darkness now. John David understood deep down that this was just the start of their adventure together, and their delight would only grow. A pearl of knowledge about love, tolerance, and realizing that luck doesn't always turn out the way we expect it to. After the birth of their third daughter, the days stretched into weeks. The world viewed Abbie Duggar and John David as the epitome of contentment. A happy couple celebrates their second child's healthy arrival. On social media, they shared smiles, thankfulness, and matching attire. After I got home from the hospital, I had a period of calm that didn't appear to have any depth. Despite the filters and subtitles, their home was burdened by an unsaid burden. Abbie had hoped that John David would be as involved and enthusiastic with their third kid as he had been with their first two. However, he appeared more subdued and concentrated this time. He worked on his jet or fixed trivial issues that weren't actually important for hours on end in the garage. He would respond, "Just tired, that's all," with a straightforward smile. However, Abbie could sense the distance growing between them each time she asked him about his emotional status, one that was written with grief rather than anger. Abbie took care of the baby and their two daughters day in and day out, frequently without sleep. She would listen to the soft humming of the baby's chest as it rose and fell in the quiet of the night. Kind, insightful, and inquisitive.